get up and go to work? Why do you do what you do, no matter what it is? But in this business, you have to know your why to be successful. And some of you guys have heard this before, so I'll just apologize, and hopefully you'll catch some more pearls of wisdom. If you were at conference in Dallas in June, then you've heard this before. But hopefully you'll catch something new out of this. But this is what Todd asked me to talk about, so it's going to be a little bit of a repeat. So knowing your why is paramount to moving you forward in the business. You absolutely have to know why you're doing this. If you don't know your why, you might enjoy some levels of success, just by virtue of going through the steps. But if you don't have a passionate why, when things get hard, and trust me, they will. Has anybody been told no? Anybody been laughed at? Okay. When things get hard, and they will get hard, if you don't have a strong why, you're going to pack up your toys and go to the house. And I apologize for being hoarse, y'all. So my son's football team, high school football team, made the state playoffs, and last night was the first round of playoffs. So so I screamed a little bit too much last night, so I'll just have to apologize for my voice. But anyway, when times get hard, if you don't have a strong why, you're just going to pack your toys up and go home, fold the tent. I'm done. But if you have a strong why, you're going to keep going. Okay? It's got to be so strong that you feel like you can't go another single minute without doing this, whatever it is. If it's this business, your why's got to be so strong you feel like you can't go another minute without doing it. You have to do it if your why is strong enough. If any of you haven't seen the Eric Thomas video, As Bad As You Want to Breathe, write that down and look that up on YouTube. Eric Thomas, As Bad As You Want to Breathe. It's a very, very powerful illustration. When you want something, and he talks about this, finding out his why, walk into the ocean and dip your head under the water. You'll fight to get out, to breathe. When you want something as bad as you want to breathe, now you got to think about the power behind that. As bad as you want to breathe, that's pretty bad. If you want it that bad, that's a pretty strong why. Okay? Your why will constantly empower you if it's strong enough. Your why is going to push you when you're down and you're tired and rejected. I talked about that a minute ago. It's going to help you to put one foot in front of the other. It's going to give you superhuman strength. Okay? Stephanie a mom. Okay? Probably, if I put her up in the boxing ring with Evander Holyfield, she's probably not going to come out too well. Right? But everybody close your eyes for just a second, especially those of you that are parents. Close your eyes. And I want you not just listen to the words that I'm saying, but really envision this. Stephanie, close your eyes and imagine Evander Holyfield has got his hands on the throat of your child. Okay? Really imagine that. How strong are you now, Stephanie?
Oh, I'm very strong.
You think you could take him?
I think I can take him.
I think you could. Okay. That's a strong why, okay? Probably on a day-to-day basis you couldn't take on Evander Holyfield. But whatever, your why has to strike an emotion in you so strong that you could take on Evander Holyfield and knock the crap out of him. Because he's got his hands on your child. I can tell you what, I could eat up this whole room on my child. If somebody had my child, that's strong. I mean, if you really, really envision what that is. It acts as a reminder that only you hold the key to your success. Nobody else does. You're in this business for yourself, but you're not by yourself. I believe you've heard Darren say that. We're a team. We help each other out. We got each other's backs. We support each other. However, it's still ultimately up to you. Your why will constantly empower you if it's strong enough. Your why is your why. It's not Jim's why or Miss Linda's why or Darlene's why. It's your why. Everybody's why is a little bit different. What is it in your life that you're so passionate about that you can't talk about without hardly getting emotional? I was telling Marcy just a minute ago, I'm probably one of these odd people in life. You know, a lot of people talk about being scared to death of public speaking. I'm not one of those people. I don't say that to brag. I just never have been. I mean, since I was a small child, I mean, I actually enjoy public speaking. I love getting up in front of people. And I can probably talk about any subject under the sun. But there's one subject, and y'all seen me before talk about this, that gets me emotional, and that's talking about my child. Mm-hmm. And that is my why. Well, went too far. If your why isn't strong enough to make you cry, then it's not your why. And I said again just a minute ago, and I'd like for y'all to write that down, for those of you that haven't already heard me talk about this. If your why isn't strong enough to make you cry, then that's not your why. Okay? And this is my why.
It's a good why.
Also referred to as the air in my lungs. Now, y'all don't get me wrong. My husband's sitting back there, and I love my husband. And I know, you know, God's plan is for me to actually love my husband more than I love my child. But right now, he's not an adult yet, so I think God understands. But this is my why. This is Scott, and he's back there too. He just raised his head. And maybe I'm so passionate about this because you've already heard me talk about the water. You've already heard me talk about his brain disorders. I'll do whatever I need to do to help him be successful in life. A little bit about him. My husband and I weren't able to have children. We tried. We went through fertility treatments for more than 5 years and spent a potload of money. When I say a potload, it was probably more like a truckload of money, and was never able to get pregnant. Susan and Anthony are with us partially on that journey, so I'm sure they remember some of this. Then we were presented with an opportunity to adopt, and we started down that path, and we actually lost that adoption. And I think y'all heard me say this in Dallas too. I understand when the Bible talks about Jesus being prostrate in the garden because his legs wouldn't hold him up with grief. That's what happened when we lost that first adoption. My legs would not physically hold my body up. And I thought that was the absolute worst moment of my life. Then a few years later, we were presented with the opportunity to adopt Scott. And we started down that path again. Of course, very, very intrepid about that because of what had just happened a couple of years before. And that was just so incredibly difficult. I can't even describe to you the pain. But we were presented with the opportunity to adopt Scott. And Scott came. And we took him home, and then his birth father took us to court to try to fight us for custody. So here we go again. And I'm telling you this so that you understand what my why is and talk about that. Even our own attorneys were telling us just to give up because in the state of Tennessee, blooded family have more rights than adoptive family, in spite of the condition of said blooded family. And so even our attorney said, give up, and I wasn't having that. I sought out a litigation attorney throughout the state of Tennessee, and what we didn't know is not all adoption attorneys litigate, And not all litigation attorneys litigate in adoptions. So I found one. He was expensive, very, very expensive, but worth every dime. So a few years later, actually a few months later, that was all finalized. Scott was ours. 100% bona fide ours. Fast forward a few years later, we discovered that he has some brain disorders that he struggles with. And that brings me to part of the why I do this business. I'm like a sponge. I'm all the time reading, researching, trying to find things that I can do to help him mitigate his symptoms. And that is part of my why. So know your why. Write it down. Keep it with you. If you were in Dallas, and unfortunately I don't have those printed up, I gave out some cards so that you could write down your why and keep that with you. And I hope that those of you that were there, I hope that you still have those and reference it from time to time. But if you didn't get one of those cards, just write it down on something that you keep with you. Write down your why, and it can change. You know, if you achieve something that was on your why list, then make a stronger why. And it can continually change. But keep that with you and reference it from time to time. Another thing I asked the folks to do when we were in Dallas is take a picture of your why, of whatever it is, and get an accountability partner. Okay? Send that to somebody that's going to hold you accountable for doing this business, so that when times get hard, you call on your accountability partner and they say, what's your why? You know, they're going to hold you accountable for not quitting, not giving up. Your why should be too strong to give up. So get an accountability partner. Somebody that's going to be bare knuckles and not let you quit. Absolutely not let you quit. Linda, you gave me a commitment. You were not going to quit. I won't have it. If I have to drive to North Carolina and we got to fight out in the front yard, you know what I'm saying? Find somebody that's going to hold you accountable to not quit. When you have a clear vision of why you are doing this business, along with passion, desire, and the right training, you're going to be unstoppable. That's all I've got, guys.
Thank you.